there's something in a woman that changes when she decides to become unapologetic. And in business and in career and in corporate, we can actually design our own careers and rules the way they suit us and making sure they're not burning us out along the way. So that's how I ended up becoming a book mentor and a voice coach and all those fun, juicy things.
Welcome to Women Thrive podcast. This is where you'll get to hear incredible stories of female entrepreneurs, business owners, women from all walks of life. Myself, Raymond Jan, and my co-host Abigail will be interviewing incredible women, hearing inspiring stories of women from all around the world. I have no doubt that you will find something that will be life-changing for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join us for our future episodes.
So hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Women Thrive podcast. My name is Abigail Rebecca. I'm so excited to host today and also to invite you to participate in this conversation, right? So we're always asking you to give us some feedback, to send us your questions. And I have a question for you today. I'd really love to know if you have ever thought about writing a book, if it's something that's on your wish list. And we always talk about this at Women Thrive, how writing a book can really leverage your authority, your impact. It can really support your speaking, but it's also an incredible way to tell your story, to express yourself, and to really be able to empower your voice. Share your message with the world. So this is what we're going to be speaking about today. I am very, very excited to introduce you to our guest today. Her name is K Kailea. She is the founder and CEO of the Femmepreneur Pathfinder, and she's on a mission to inspire women to sign their own permission slips, ask for what they truly desire, say no with confidence, and embrace putting themselves first without feeling guilty. She's also just released her best-selling book, Corporate Rewilding. It's a wild woman's guide to reclaiming your feminine power, and it's available worldwide on Amazon. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today, Tina, and hear your story actually about the book as well. So welcome, first of all, welcome. It's great to see you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I'm super passionate about books. So thank you, and welcome to the audience. I'd love to know, have you thought about it? You would be a very small percentage of the population who has that as a vision, and we can be here to look at what that might mean for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tina, obviously I gave you a very short introduction there, but I know that there's so much more to you. So please, could you share with us your work, your vision, your passion, like your big mission in this world?
I most certainly can. My name is K Kailea, so I have a Tongan last name, in case you're wondering how to pronounce that one. I'm based in New Zealand, down under, and I really, really love women having the courage to take up space. Because for a lot of us, when we start out in the world in business, and for me it was no different, there's a lot of conditioning that we have that we need to, play by the rules, take up as little space as possible. And by using your voice and expressing what it is that you really want to go after, you become a different person. And my mission is to help women write down their goals and their desires and really make that a reality and not be scared that they may fail or don't have the courage to step out and be seen. And writing a book is the ultimate form of really taking up that place. I keep saying it's a throne that you actually climb and you crown yourself to become full of yourself, which has a bit of a connotation that is not acceptable. So I'm here to be your permission slip, your possibility agent. And I call myself an unapologetic wild woman because it has taken me nearly 50 years to really embody that. And I encourage you to come to the wild side.
And what's your background, Tina? Like, how did you get into this? Because I know that we share a corporate background, right? Am I right in saying that? I remember when we've spoken before about this.
Yes, I have a career in manufacturing, in writing consulting, and then stepped into publishing. And a lot of the stuff that I write about is what happens when we are stuck in a career that our head tells us is right, ticks all the boxes, has all the things, but you're actually not fulfilled. So I joined publishing because I wanted to be creative. I love the hustle and bustle magazine. There's proofs to be signed off, deadlines. But unfortunately, it turned out to be something very different when you step into management in that field. And all my burnout and my breakdown happened in that environment. And I stepped away from it completely, became a cake designer. So I ran my own cake boutique for 10 years, nothing with corporate whatsoever. But I also reclaimed a lot of the things that I enjoyed about it. And eventually I decided to join the Thrive Summit, and my talk title morphed into a book. And I rekindled that whole beautiful passion I had for writing and decided that I wanted to bring that in a more aligned way for me, and wanted to work with women. Anyone who thought or ever been told you can't possibly do that, or have you lost your marbles? That's impossible. I invite you to be the impossible and step into that. And that's how I transitioned into the work I do today. I'm also a black belt in karate, so about taking up space and really having a powerful presence is something I love. And there's something in a woman that changes when she decides to become unapologetic. And in business and in career and in corporate, we can actually design our own careers and rules the way they suit us, and making sure they're not burning us out along the way. So that's how I ended up becoming a book mentor and a voice coach and all those fun, juicy things.
Yes, I love that. I love all of that, of course. It's so aligned, of course, to everything, our mission, our purpose at Women Thrive. And I really love that you wrote a book off the back of your talk title, right? It wasn't just
I
like,
know.
I'm going to speak on the stage. It was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book as well. Let's just do all of this.
And it felt a natural extension. And I think it was one of those things where you think being on a stage is a scary thing. But then writing a book, even though I teach what I've written about, I've spoken about my story on multiple occasions, but putting it on a page and then putting it out there next to your picture and your name, that is a whole nother level of, I keep calling it the ultimate form of shadow work, because once you've done that, it's like stepping through a portal, one of those magic revolving doors, and you come out the other end and you go, you know what, world? You can take me. You can throw anything at me. My story is written. I've got nothing to hide anymore. And there's a transformation that happens. And that is so powerful from a personal point of view, but also for your brand and your message and where you're going with your business or your career.
What I love about you and your story is that you've taken these big leaps of faith, these real courageous steps within your life, leaving corporate, moving to another country, traveling and moving, starting your business, writing a book. We were talking actually before we started recording about the fact that it can be an experience that takes a lot of courage, because it's, once you've written it, it's there, you've put your name to your story. And sometimes we can be sharing parts of ourselves that we've never really shared before. You were just talking about the shadow work and about how this can be a real healing experience. What did it take for you to write the book? How did you kind of step out of your comfort zone in writing this book?
I think I really had to get honest about all the things, like you said. There were parts I hadn't shared fully. And my story is about, in burnout, it's not just adrenal fatigue and anxiety, depression, all that stuff, and obviously the physical things. But I lost 5 pregnancies along that journey, and I wasn't stopping it. I wasn't listening to my body. And I had no idea what that even meant when I started my journey. So writing the book had really taken me down a few steps deeper into some of the underlying things that actually went all the way into childhood. And that is not an easy thing to write. So there's been times when my book had me on my knees crying my eyes out, because it was a part that needed to be rephrased and forever brought to an audience. And that's hard. And I make no qualms about it. I also enrolled my own book coach, even though I had helped others with writing, and it is not my first book. But that personal stuff was like journaling, but 10x it, and then give it to someone to read. And then I think what comes along the book journey often is that imposter syndrome. Who would be interested in my story? Who would listen to what I have to say? But the mission was, if I can just help one woman understand that the path they're on can lead to something a lot worse and can stop them earlier so they don't have to go through the heartbreak that I had to go through to learn the lessons. Or even a woman who was hiding at work in a bathroom cubicle because someone had a baby shower and I miscarried 2 weeks before that. Those moments happen to women every day in the workplace. So if I can make that a normal conversation and change the narrative, how we perceive what might be going on for the woman on the inside, then that is my mission completed. And it becomes a little bit bigger than your own story, because it, like I said, it gives others permission to go, wow, did she just say that out loud or written? They feel heard and seen. And I think this is why books like that become such a powerful tool.
Yeah, it's transformational, isn't it? For obviously yourself, you've spoken about the transformation that you can go through as a woman on that journey and being able to share your story in that way, and also transformational for all the women that were reading it. And you mentioned there that you actually reached out and you got some support with that. So it with the book coach, and obviously I know that you're a book doula. Would you be able to explain to us what that means, and what are there any differences like between what you do and perhaps what the traditional book coaches would do? Like, what's the differences in what you bring?
A book coach will help you and give you all the steps to get to your end goal. Much like if you say, I would like to fit into a size 12 dress, whatever, in 3 months' time, there's steps you take and you get there. What often gets neglected along the way is some of the emotional elements that lie beneath the surface. So a book doula is like a midwife. You're actually there along the journey to not just help them get to the end goal, aka the book is launched and gets to a bestseller. It's caring for the person, for the writer, for the author throughout the process when all of that stuff comes up. So I hold space, and I do this with in-person events that are not necessarily related to books, but it's that putting your armor down and allowing your nervous system to go, oh, I'm going to take a breather. I feel safe, because a lot of the things that get talked about with a book coach, there needs to be an element of trust. And when you are going through the process of picking a midwife, there needs to be chemistry. There needs to be that feeling like I can really rely on this person to have my back when the going gets tough, to get through that. And that may take up a lot more time than actually writing the words, is that space holding. And what are we bringing to the surface along the way that will carry that story in the book so the reader can follow with just enough information? Because it's easy to, when we're reliving these moments, like I said, I cried, and a lot of the authors I work with, there's so much stuff that comes up, and then very, very gently drawing some of those questions into the mix to go, okay, well, what did you feel in that moment? Take me there. So I wear the head of the reader. How is it landing for me, to make sure it's a slow and aligned way for the author to purge that emotion. And then once the book has that part complete, the rest follows normal steps. like you're going to look at where this is leading. There's lessons, there may be business things at the end, tips for the reader. But it's that emotional part that is quite often neglected. And then you can go into panic mode. I had authors who said, you know what? My family doesn't speak to me anymore because I put the book out and they knew I was writing it. But no one prepared me because of the backlash I was experiencing. So holding that truth because you've written it, that is a process. And this is where the doula process comes through.
It's fascinating, isn't it, on these journeys of transformation where we could be looking at something like, I'm just going to write a book. I'm just going to speak on a stage. I'm just going to go to a retreat. You're focused on the process and the end result. But actually what happens is that you go through this beautiful process of healing, and that can just bring up all the shadow. And it's really, really important to have someone to hold that space for you, to have a safe space while you're processing all of that.
Yeah, because it's took me by surprise. And this is where I decided maybe that was the lesson in the background I have. I know everything there's about publishing, hybrid publishing, but it's this element here where even I crumbled and I go, I'm going to, that's what I needed. And a lot of the space holding didn't happen in my publishing or book coaching element. It was in the sisterhood. It was other women who were holding me through a process. And I go, well, I do this in my circles and retreats. There's that, it's almost a shamanic thing where you dive into the subconscious and really allow yourself to break open. And it's a very fine line of not re-traumatizing yourself, because a lot of the stuff can be really heavy. I mean, for me, it was miscarriages, anything in that sort of area that goes on with the reproductive systems. I talk a lot about the voice and the sacral, the larynx and the sacral bulb. They are polar opposites. They look identical. So a lot of the blockages, when one is blocked, the other can't express, and that goes into a bit more of a woo-woo thing. But then that's the doula thing. There's a lot of the stuff that we intuitively know that comes through, and that's that space holding that you touched on as well.
I also heard you mention that there is also a space holding for maybe the aftermath of when the book's published, being able to kind of mitigate and manage that in terms of family and other people that are impacted by that book. If someone was watching this now and just thinking, actually, I'd really love to share my story, but I'm worried about the impact that it might have on other people, I'm worried about upsetting others, what would you say to people? Because I can imagine that that might be something that would be preventing people from really being completely expressed and sharing their story authentically.
Depending on what the circumstances are and what's shared in the book, there's obviously the legality part of it. So you do not use real names and necessarily places. There's all those legal parts. But I would say throughout the process, when revisiting some of the things that are shared, I do inquiry around, what does that feel? Imagine Lucy from school or your father or your uncle, whatever might be happening. What happens when these people open your book? And I walk them through that process. So they're almost having like a preview. They imagine what happens when these people sit on the couch and open a book, and how does it feel on the inside? So whatever panic or blockages may be sitting there, it allows us to dive into, okay, so do we leave this part out of the book? How do we frame it so it feels safe for you when it hits the bookshelves, or it ends up in all the different hands of people that you might have talked about? And that allows that woman to go and prepare, to hold that space, to ground it. And I call it my inner sword of truth. And it's a really nice way to imagine when I'm holding my sword, it's strong, and my story is my path. And anything on the outside, we're going to not let that come through to us. And it depends. It can go really, really deep for some women, and some women just go, oh, no, I've made the decision. I'm not going to be affected by it. It is important. I need to tell this, and no matter what. So it's a very individual journey.
Yeah. What other blocks do you see coming up? Someone really wants to write a book, it's the dream, but there's things that are holding them back from doing that. What do you see coming up a lot? Let's see if we can smash through some limiting beliefs and get some more people writing books.
A lot of people say, but I'm not an editor, I'm not a writer. That is often something that comes along, and I always tell them, don't get lost when you start writing a book because the brain wants to go, okay, I'm going to do 40,000 words and I'm going to have 12 chapters and this is my cover. We get stuck up here. So the first thing to make sure we're not getting stuck anywhere is to get out of here and really go into here. So I don't work with Word. I have software that I recommend. So it allows you to purge little bits, because writing is not necessarily a linear process where you open that Word document and you're still going to write it from cover to cover. It doesn't happen. You're going to have little things when you wake up in the morning, or maybe when you're walking your dog or on holiday. So there's all these disjointed pieces, and it's really easy to get completely frazzled when you try and go, okay, I don't know which chapter it goes into. So I always say, well, be a magpie, right? The main thing is, if you feel a creative thing coming on, make time every day to actually connect with your book. And this sounds woo-woo again. I think your book is a separate entity. It has a aura and it's a being of itself. So I always say to women, make space and time. It doesn't matter whether it's in the morning for 10 minutes or in a meditation class, but connect with that book and start visualizing what that might feel like. And then creative stuff comes through. I had bursts where I woke up at 4 a.m. and I go, I can't go back to sleep. So open up your computer and just let it flow on the page. Don't stop for punctuation or try and move words around. Just brain dump it and then put it over to the side. All the editing and the grammar you maybe worry about, that comes later. That's why you have a process and support people that can look after that for you. And English is not my first language, but here I am. I've written a book. So it's trying to make sure we're not getting frazzled, because that really upsets the nervous system. Make time for creative writing and don't overthink it, especially not that part that requires that deep diving into past and subconscious and trauma and those things.
Let's talk about business and your business specifically. What have you seen impacted and transformed within your business from a result of writing this book?
It puts me on further stages. It has really honed in the message of my business. There's an element of clarity. And in the age of having so many different platforms and so many ways on how we can portray our business, writing a book with the view towards supporting your business and whatever that looks like is the ultimate honing in on the clarity of your message. And it's a really automatic process. You don't even notice it happens. But when you get to the end, not only have you got a clear idea on what your program is like, what's your magic. You can get woken up at 2 a.m. and someone asks, what do you do? You know, that elevator thing, that one sentence, it pops up and it becomes second nature. So you become one with your book, one with your brand. And it's a golden ticket. It puts you on stages, it puts you in magazines, it puts you on podcasts. You want to write more books, I can tell you that. As soon as you write that first one with your personal story, you get all these different ideas. And because you've done it once, there is an easier follow on writing a second or third book. And you've part of the 0.01% of the population. You actually published a book. So it's not a small feat, but it's an exciting journey.
What an incredible accomplishment, a sense of fulfillment it must be to be in that place and actually feel, I look at that and go, I've done that. I've birthed it, right?
It's closure as well, because it's a chapter that is often hard for the author, and it often can be years in the past. But obviously, when you, like you said, you bring the baby home, you looked at it online and you get this thing like, I'm an author. That is like, wow. So yeah, I always make sure in the aftermath, like we touched on, take time to actually celebrate your achievement. Don't just move on to the book funnel and whatever else might live after. Take a moment, celebrate yourself. Have a book party. I'm big on that one. So bring the people around, bring a community around and have a party. Do an online thing. Do both. Because it is a huge milestone. So many other people will be inspired by the steps you took, and you will get messages. And this is the biggest, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a Christmas morning. You see all the presents. When you get a random person send you a message on a social media platform to go, thank you for actually writing this book. I feel so seen and so heard. And you see people highlighting parts of the book. And it's like, wow, that's why you write it. It's those moments.
Tina, it's been so lovely to talk to you today. And I really feel your passion around not only your own authorship, but helping others to birth their books as well. And to really feel into this mission around really empowering women and rewilding women, like really holding this beautiful space for them to be fully expressed and to share their story. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Where can we find out more about you? Can you share your website, your social media? Like, where do you hang out?
I hang out on LinkedIn, and you can find me at K Kailea, or you can connect with me on my website, which is thebookmystic.com, or on Instagram, _fempreneur.
Fantastic. Is there any final word that you'd like to leave with us today?
I would say, don't be scared. There's help, and it is not as scary as you think to start it. So have the courage to do it. You will grow exponentially by writing your story down.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tina. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast today.
Thank you for everyone in the audience. I'd love to know if you had a book idea already. Put it in the comments.
Yeah, we'd love to know. I mean, as I said at the top end of this, we're always asking you to continue this conversation. So you can always reach out to us here at Women Thrive. Tina, now where to find her. And if you're watching this on a social media channel, yes, absolutely put your comments below. If you have been thinking about writing a book and you're like, I'm just waiting for the right time, then this is your sign. We are speaking directly to you. Contact Tina and she will definitely be able to guide you through that process beautifully. Thank you so much for watching today, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Women Thrive podcast. If you found today's episode empowering and inspiring, be sure to subscribe and follow us. Better yet, leave a review and share it with others. We're committed to bringing you more stories that will empower and inspire you on your own journey. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep pursuing your dreams.